creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
Some animals have no business being normalized. Like, how do we end up taking giraffes for granted? Like, did you know some giraffes are low-key going extinct? No, you didn't. So you thought because they move in silence and you learned about them when you were 5, you thought this stretch-necked unicorn camel leopard would be around forever, but joke's on you, they're not even silent. Yeah, this walking penthouse is weirder than you think. You want to know how weird? For the longest, we thought there was only one giraffe species, only because no one ever bothered to DNA test them, because once they finally did, we found out there's actually 4. There's 4 flavors of giraffe in the Giraffidae family. Hey.
Man, looks so cute.
Oh, you about to scroll. Go ahead, bro. You rude as hell. For the rest of y'all that have decorum, there's 4 species, the northern, southern reticulated, and the Maasai giraffe. And between those 4 species, there's 7 subspecies. You got one more time to pump fake me with your finger. How dare you? This is important. That's why y'all can't read. No attention span. But out of those 4 species are 7 subspecies. Out of those 7, the Kordofan giraffe, which is like a spin-off of the northern, is also critically endangered. Science says there's only 2,000 left. And the giraffe named Nubian by the be in past tense, since their numbers got nerfed by 95% since the 80s. Did you know there's more elephants in Africa than giraffes? And by a lot, too. And no shade, but bamboo bear's been off the endangered list for like 10 years. Giraffes were added in 2024, and low-key, folks been trying to put them in since 2017. It's really true. People don't appreciate you till you're gone. Imagine explaining to children now we used to have a 2-story high-strolling didgeridoo with a neck longer than a prohibition, and people just acted like that was normal.
What?
Well, now we're in a giraffe recession, and they've already been discontinued in 7 countries, so Jurassic Park might be closer than you think. The more you know.
Just learning that they are endangered is widely upsetting.
Remember the Russian guy building a real Iron Man suit in his garage? And everyone's making videos about it. He just figured out how the whole suit might run on water. Meet Alex Birkin, the Russian engineer who has spent 6 years alone in his garage building a functional Iron Man suit. And he just posted a video that might be the most important update in the entire project. Every attempt to build a powered suit fails at the same point. The power system either overheats, loses efficiency, or gets so heavy the suit stops working. Alex built a reactor that splits water into hydrogen and oxygen using electricity, and that same device automatically doubles as a high-pressure compressor with 0 motors, 0 pistons, and 0 valves because 1 liter of water produces 1,800 liters of rocket fuel with nothing moving to make it happen. Here's where it gets insane. He just figured out why every version of this technology before his kept overheating and failing. The fix was pulse current, a controller that stops gas bubbles clogging the electrodes and killing the system. But the craziest part? After 6 years alone in a garage with no corporation, no team, and no budget, Alex just cracked the energy problem that stopped everyone else, and the whole suit might run on water. Follow me to keep up with the latest AI and tech news.
You know, the government gonna knock on his door and take his suit.
Y'all keep going overseas, getting these operations, letting these people play on your body. You gonna mess around and come home in a casket. I just watched Caterpillar, the Netflix documentary, and I'm dead serious. I had to pause that shit and walk away. This dude flew to India to permanently change his eye color. They get this man in there. They do the operation, and this man wakes up and he has the wrong eye color. Mind you, before all of this shit, this man walks into the room and there's 2 people already there laid out, getting operated on at the same time. So after he figures out that his eyes is the wrong colors, he tells them. And guess what they say? They tell him they gave the guy that was next to him the wrong color too. You heard what I just said? They mixed up the colors. They put his eyes and his eyes and his eyes and his eyes. And then the shit gets worse. They tell him, well, we could switch it. What you mean switch them? How was that even possible? So that means he got to lay down and do a whole nother operation? If you looking at it how I was looking at it, that shit did not feel like a hospital. It felt like a factory. There is a reason that procedure is banned. So you mean to tell me after you messed up his eyes, you want to go back in and redo it, and it's a chance he could go blind? Nah,
that's wild.
That's a documentary you got to see, man. I'm out.
They try to tell us that the Leviathan was a fish, a whale, a crocodile, a primitive myth told by ancient nomads that just so happened to get recorded in our Bibles. But all of that is a huge distraction because everything we're taught about world history and where we live is a manufactured lie. This is how the ancient Hebrews understood the cosmos. If you've seen any of my content, you probably know I am a semi-flat earther with a firmament dome above us, so we're going off of that as the starting point. Look at how they labeled this. At the bottom, you have Rahab, which is the dragon. Then you have Tiamat, which comes from the Babylonian creation myth. And then also Leviathan, another ancient Hebrew piece of artwork. This is the Leviathan. It's a giant fish serpent looking thing encircling a red disc. Have you guys ever seen the Blood Falls in Antarctica? When they test this red water, it's very high in iron. Just looking at it, you can tell that it's blood. This is exactly like the viscosity and everything. Now take a look at Google Earth. That is a serpent if I've ever seen one. It has eyes. Look at that. You could see a perfect outline of the eye, and there are 7 islands on its snout. This is wrapped around Antarctica, and I think that its back is spread out and smushed down, and it creates the firmament. The entire backside of the globe doesn't have land on it. I think they're showing us the sky. I think NASA and these space agencies are not creating blatant lies. They're making the lies so subtle that they're difficult to detect. Look at a map of tectonic plates. All of Antarctica is on one tectonic plate. And then look at what I think is the Leviathan. Its snout is called the Sandwich Plate, and the rest of its head is called the Scotia Plate. And this changes the entire end times narrative in the Bible. The Leviathan is the structural boundary of our known world. It is the crystalline firmament. In the Babylonian creation story, the Enuma Elish, the entire cosmos was the result of a fight between the god Marduk and the dragon of watery chaos named Tiamat. In the opening verses of Genesis, the name of the dragon Tiamat is turned into the Hebrew word used for watery chaos. When Marduk slayed the dragon and split it into multiple pieces, the dragon's corpse then became our physical universe. In my antique Bible, in the notes underneath when God created the heavens and the earth, they show the Egyptian cosmology, which has a male and a female split apart, exactly like we're going to go over in the Bible, Behemoth and Leviathan. And then they show the Hindu representation, which is even more interesting because you have a turtle, but then look, a serpent encircling everything. I got this antique star finder off of eBay, and it's just the firmament. You could see the North Star on top and the constellations all around it.
Man, what kind of Bible is that?
This device was banned by the Rockefellers in the 1800s. And this is a copper wand. And they would actually use this to ground their bodies and enhance the charge of their bodies in the 1800s. Because we are electrical beings. And so if you place this copper device onto the ground and you then hold it with your hand, the copper is then going to conduct the electrical charge and frequencies of the earth, which will then be transferred onto the individual, instantaneously healing that individual. Which is another reason why people would line their shoes in the 1800s with metal components such as copper, brass, and even silver, so that they were constantly grounded all day long, constantly elevating their frequency. But also this device was used to purify and even structure water, because the shape of this device is no coincidence. This shape actually holds its own frequency, and so when you place it in water, this frequency is then transferred to the water, creating some of the most structured water one can drink, alongside purifying it through copper's potent antibacterial properties, which is exactly why old swimming pools used copper instead of chlorine.
Yeah, I have a copper mug.
These UFOs where he talks about it looks like it just skips. It's like they can almost jump through time.
Weird, man.
And Bob Lazar's under the impression, he's like, everyone's talking about anti-gravity. He's like, I think it's a completely different force that no one has ever discovered or talked about. It's like some sort of manipulation of time, but it's a force.
That would be the next step.
And if you're like to go down the weird rabbit hole of like, well, are they like fallen angels or demons? They are technically eternal beings. Do they know of this force that exists in this different realm or dimension that affects time? Mm-hmm. And can they make it into a machine to where they can affect?
That's its fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't know.
This is exactly why you should never casually feed a crow. Because once you do, The consequences might be way bigger than you expect. The guy in the video thought it was just harmless fun, so he tossed a few crackers to a crow without thinking much of it. A few days later, the same crow came back, but this time, it didn't show up alone. It brought the entire family. From that point on, his life completely changed. Wherever he went, a whole flock of crows followed him like a flying security detail. And that's just the beginning of how smart these birds are. When crows aren't feeling well, they'll actually jump into anthills and deliberately irritate the ants. It looks like they're asking for trouble, but they're not being reckless at all. When the ants get agitated, they spray formic acid, which works like a natural insecticide for the crow. It helps get rid of parasites and keeps their feathers healthy. What's even more impressive is that crows can cooperate with wolves. If a crow spots prey, it makes a specific call, and wolves that are familiar with the sound know it means food is nearby. The crow guides, the wolf hunts, and both benefit.
Yep, 6-foot-long, fast, flesh-tearing creatures have just seemingly learned to hunt people in towns at night, and people are finding what they leave behind in the morning. People were terrified after they started appearing in the UK, reaching speeds of 36 miles per hour, taking down their victims in under 10 seconds, and can drag 3 times their own body weight using nothing but their jaw. With experts saying if you ever come face to face with one, there's nothing you can do. Haunting footage showed these creatures have now been spotted in every part of the country, with one farmer finding over 100 of his sheep gone in 3 months, all taken out by the throat. And DNA pulled from the scene came back as something that should not exist in that country. But it gets much darker as these creatures are no longer staying in the fields, with one man checking his doorbell camera in the morning and finding one had been sitting outside his front door for hours, seemingly waiting for his next meal. Many have labeled them South London's big cats, but later identified as black leopards.
Now I hear she's got Kuru, starting to go blind and shit. Could be the syphilis too, though. Either way, that cannibal game finally catching up to her. Karma's a bitch. This crazy ass woman was out here feeding people shit and not telling nobody where it came from. I'm a picky eater, bruh. Whole foods, organic, all that. I don't do no sprays, no chemicals, none of that. I need to know exactly what I'm putting in my body and where it came from. So when I finally found out what was really in them dumplings, shock of my goddamn life. But by the end of that night, I found out everybody knows. I'm telling you, it's an open secret in home. But people are scared of her. Nah, terrified. Straight up terrified. She told me her daddy was a serial killer. Never got caught. Dozens of bodies. Said she got the same eyes as him. Something wrong with them. You can't quite put your finger on it. Like a predator staring at you right before it strikes. And the wild part? She proud of that shit.
Proverbs 11:21. The wicked will not go unpunished.
Historical facts that don't sound real. So one of Titanic's sister ships, the Britannic, sank in 1916. It hit a German mine which exploded and filled 6 of the compartments up with water. Despite this, it still floated. So the captain decided he was going to sail full speed ahead towards land, which made it start sinking a lot faster. 30 people panicked and took 2 lifeboats without asking permission, dropped them into the water, assumed they were sailing towards safety, but they got sucked up into the propellers of the boat. Those were the only fatalities. That last fact actually has 2 parts. So in 1911, the Olympic sank and Violet Jessup was on board. She survived. And then in 1912, the Titanic sank and she was also on board that ship and survived. And then in 1916, she was on board the Britannic and she was actually one of the passengers that went out on the stolen lifeboats. And right before it hit the propellers, she jumped off, got pulled down with the ship. She missed the propellers, but she got pulled down in the water with the ship, hit her head, fractured her skull, and she still lived. She lived a full life. She died at 83 years old. I think she died of heart failure. Yeah.
Yeah, man. If it's not your time, it's not your time. It doesn't matter where you are.
The temple on Epstein Island was initially supposed to look a little different than it ended up looking. This is a file that I came across while looking into the Epstein files, and I believe this is an artist's mock-up of what Epstein wanted the temple to look like, and it's definitely different than how it ended up. So taking a bit of a closer look, the colors are much more vivid here. You can see the patterning out front is much more red and distinct, and obviously the biggest distinction here that I don't think ever really made it to the island are the statues. And it's really creepy to me to see these things placed out front of the temple. And just taking a look at all this stuff, it's known that Epstein was really into Greek mythology. There are Greek mythological figures all over Epstein's properties that I've noticed and talked about in previous videos. But just looking at these right here, I think I can tell you conclusively who at least two of these figures represent. For example, I believe this is representing the Greek god Pan. Interestingly, Pan is where we get the word panic, because in Greek mythology, Pan was said to be able to emit a really loud scream that could cause immediate fear in people who heard it. And Pan is a Greek god that's frequently associated with sex and fertility, amongst other things like nature. But this tracks for Epstein. You can actually see other figures of Pan throughout Epstein's properties. But this figure over here is a little bit more interesting to me in a way, because it appears to be depicting Poseidon, the god of the sea. There are a number of other Poseidon kind of statues and pieces of art found throughout Epstein's properties as well. The horse hooves kind of threw me off a little bit, but I mean, my best guess is that this is Poseidon, which is very interesting because if you take a look at the aerial view of Epstein's Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, you see this really weird shape and this design that was present on the property. This thing was actually just removed about a month or two ago. But this is no ordinary landscaping feature. A lot of people actually believe that that is a map of Atlantis, based on an old description of Atlantis, a depiction of Atlantis by Greek philosopher Plato. I mean, the similarities are definitely there. And it's actually a very interesting deep dive. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, his partner in crime, they were obsessed with exploring the ocean. Ghislaine had a submarine license. A lot of people have theorized that they may have had some wacky out there theories that they could potentially find Atlantis. I'm not making that up. That's not like fear mongering or anything. That is a known line of discourse within the Epstein story. So to see this, which definitely resembles the map of Atlantis on Epstein's property, paired with this depiction of Poseidon, I mean, I think it's very intriguing. But I couldn't figure out what the statues on top of the Epstein temple were supposed to be. Maybe these were supposed to be owls, wink wink, I don't really know. But if you guys have any ideas or answers, please let me know. Now, recently I talked in a video about how Epstein described this place as a mosque. Although that's what Epstein was quoted as having said about this place, I don't believe that this was a mosque. I think that there was definitely a more nefarious use for this building, and obviously these Greek god statues don't track with a building's usage as a mosque.
So he had the god of panic and fertility next to the statue of the god that great Medusa.
This is so demonic. Watch this.
Man, look at the mice. Oh. These are evil, man.
Enemy uses fashion and clothing and avant-garde to attack us, to enter into a covenant with these curses and these witches who operate in the fashion industry. If you believe this, subscribe and follow and share this warning with a friend.
Okay, this is one of the most shocking subjects I have ever stumbled upon. And you know, I've had some pretty out there posts. Did you know that dolphins are one of the only animals in the world that it is illegal to interact with outside of approved facilities like SeaWorld? And did you know that there is an ancient practice known as dolphin-assisted births? So there was a Russian man, he was a male midwife, if you knew that's a thing. He was a mid-husband, and he would help women deliver babies in the ocean. And interestingly, he noted a phenomenon where dolphins would be attracted to pregnant women. They would swim up to them, and they would start going in circles around these pregnant women and doing their sonar thing out of their mouth directing it at the pregnant woman's stomach. Now, there's all kinds of ancient folklore about dolphins being advanced beings. They have more folds in their brain, which means this is not how you, basically, you don't just tell someone's intelligence by the size of their brain. Otherwise, birds would be stupid, even though we know birds are very smart despite having a small brain. What else indicates the intelligence of an animal is the amount of folds in their brain. And each fold basically multiplies the amount of potential neural pathways and neural connections, and it can make them way smarter. Well, dolphins have a lot of folds in their brains. They may be way more intelligent than we even know. Now, here's where it's crazy. There used to be a dolphin-assisted birthing center in Hawaii where people flew from all over the world. This happened in the early 2000s up until about 2013 when something happened. And it's not what you think. And women would go and give birth with dolphins in the ocean. And they said to have painless births, faster births. And they tracked the children who were born from these mothers, and they exhibited abnormal capabilities, mentally enhanced mental function into their older ages. Now, some people think it's something to do with the frequency that the dolphin is emitting at the unborn fetus, and then it comes out, and it's maybe done something with DNA. Now, dolphin-assisted birth in Hawaii is a niche practice involving a pregnant person swimming, a pregnant woman, I think is the proper terminology, swimming with a pod of dolphins. They actually called it dolphin-assisted therapy, DAT, but it lacks credible scientific backing, and this is where it gets crazy. In 2013 and 2015, a bunch of smear campaigns came out against this practice. How effing silly is it to give birth in the water with dolphins? And New York Times roasting people who have ever thought of or even fathomed doing this because it's so dangerous. Meanwhile, we know that infant, well, let's just say it's statistically not very safe to give birth in a hospital if you look at the actual statistics of unfortunate things happening. And they went and shut down the birthing center. Even though people were freely, voluntarily going to it, that wasn't enough. It violated something, and you're not allowed to do it anymore. Now, this is an anomaly. I don't even know if this is allowed anymore. This picture was taken probably 7-8 years ago. But dolphin-assisted births. We're going to do a extreme deep dive into dolphins, the ancient stories about them, what they may be harboring in their minds that we can tap into if we calibrate our consciousnesses, and a whole lot more.
You know, it would be interesting to see the track progress of babies born this way.
Warning news. This
That's Lauren Hill.
may disturb a few and offend some others, but if I gotta know this shit, down the rabbit hole we go. So, you know everything is separated by bloodlines, right? And remember how I told you reptilians are the low-level foot soldiers. So what if I told you that there is an ancient Sumerian hybrid humanoid race that has been walking amongst us for centuries, reproducing with us, genetically spicing us even further, enabling us to be able to disembody Nephilim spirits and entities. Yeah. And if you don't believe me, we can actually cut to a clip.
Not if you claim the blood of Christ on you.
That with a man that is married to one of these genetically modified specimens. And remember, I use that word specimen very intentionally. Go to the clip.
Anyone that you know has Rh negative blood type, that is not a full human. They're very different. Their blood temperature is different. So I'm going to talk Fahrenheit here because I'm in America. But normal people, when you take your blood temperature, it's 98.6. With someone Rh negative, it's 96.8. They thrive on acidic foods and sugars. They remain healthy that way.
I want you guys to keep that in mind. These beings are cold-blooded, sharing a lot of characteristics with another species. I'm going to cut to an interesting clip right now.
I wanted to see what would happen if I sent my pet lizard DNA into 23andMe. And so with the help of my wife, we extracted enough saliva to send off in the mail. We were so excited to see the results. After about 3 months, we were shocked. My lizard was 51% Ashkenazi Jewish. It was also 48% West Asian.
No way.
This was really interesting.
You want to know what else is really interesting? Let's take a good look of all the beings that have Rh negative blood type. Let's look at that. Interesting. And let's go to one more clip as to why you shouldn't just be doing anything with anybody.
You think God put a birthmark on your face?
Yeah.
I think it's Satan. I actually hate the witch's mark. It shows you that you're a witch.
Oh, I think that's true, actually.
It is.
Yeah,
when you have a red birthmark like this, it's called a witch's mark.
I just want y'all to connect them dots. I ain't even got to say too much. But for those with the eye to see, very telling, very interesting. Another rabbit hole. Stick around for part 2.
This is one of the rarest moments ever captured on camera. The footage
This is real, by the way. This is in Indonesia. It's not AI.
shows the reaction of an isolated tribe that has avoided any contact with the outside world for decades. At the beginning, a mannequin was placed in front of a man, cause scientists wanted to understand how he would behave when confronted with the image of a modern human. This tribe is called the Mantis, and we know nothing about them. They live in isolation and rarely interact with the outside world. Getting this close to them was considered impossible, which is why this recording is so unique. The idea was simple, to show them something resembling a modern human and record their reaction. Before this, no one knew how the tribe would perceive a stranger. But what happened next surprised even scientists, because members of the tribe started producing very weird animal-resembling sounds. According to researchers, this is likely how they communicate with each other. They have never studied external languages and have preserved their culture in its original form. And if you want to see the full video, try searching for Mantis Tribe.
In 2011, an 8-year-old girl in Seattle named Gabby started dropping food for the crows in her garden. Within months, they started leaving things on the empty tray in return. A pearl-colored heart, buttons, a Lego piece, earrings, over 100 objects in 4 years. When her mother lost a camera lens cap in an alley, a crow brought it back to the feeder within days. Scientists call this reciprocal altruism. The crow isn't being generous, it's running a social calculation. It identifies individual human faces, tracks who feeds it, and responds to consistent kindness with something it perceives as valuable in return. But here's what most people don't mention. Researcher John Marsliff at the University of Washington noted that sometimes the objects crows bring aren't shiny trinkets. Sometimes they bring what they'd offer a mate, dead nestlings, half-eaten prey, because to a crow, that's a better gift. They're not trying to be cute, they're treating you like family. And in crow terms, that's everything. If a crow has ever watched you, it already knows your face.
These are ravens related to crows, highly intelligent animals.
If you look at CERN, it's basically a massive facility in Geneva, Switzerland. They're basically trying to open portals to let these entities come through our realm. I saw that there was a big statue of Shiva, who's a Hindu god, out in the front, and Shiva is called the Destroyer. Right. They call him Apollyon, who's also mentioned in the book of Revelation as a destroyer, who is clearly a fallen angel.
You know what's even crazier is that in the book of Revelation, it mentions, it's the letter to the church of Pergamum, and it says that where Antipas, my faithful witness, was martyred, where Satan dwells. I believe that Pergamum was a place where you had this ancient temple to Zeus, and it was taken piece by piece apart and moved to a museum in Berlin. But historically, the church tradition said that Antipas was actually martyred on the temple to Apollyon. It's in Geneva, Switzerland. Really? So where the site of CERN is actually built on where there's a temple to Apollyon.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is weird that Apollyon being the destroyer, even Apollo is associated with locusts. Yeah. He was a god of plague. So who is the king of the bottomless pit over locusts? This idea that they're trying to hijack their way into the bottomless pit. It's absolutely terrifying.
That man that said he was kidnapped by dolphins had to be telling the truth. The man that said he was kidnapped by dolphins and taken underwater to build an underwater city had to be telling the truth. And how do I know? Because I went down a rabbit hole and look at the shit that I found. Another person, not the same person, saying a similar story that happened in Florida as well. Oh, you don't believe me, right? Look at this shit. Listen to this man.
This is the story of a group of dolphins I met in Tampa Bay. I am a high-ranking, let's just say, member of a military organization that is centered in Tampa Bay. It was 2018.
Listen to the year.
I was doing some training near our base, actually, and we were swimming. And this group of dolphins was swimming around us, and we saw that very frequently. But one of them grabbed me by my foot and pulled me under.
What?
And when he pulled me under, he pulled me into like a cave. But when we got into the cave, it was filled with oxygen.
This sounds strikingly similar to the other guy, right? Let me refresh your memory. Florida man swimming in the ocean.
Yep.
3 dolphins approach him, take him out to the middle of the sea, pull him down 40 feet under. This man said he was underground for 3 days straight with no oxygen. Back to the video. Hear the rest.
And so I got up out of the shallow pool that he had drugged me into, and there were hundreds of children in this cave.
Man.
And they spoke some weird language that I've never heard anything like that. They were obviously human. They were obviously just children, but they were all in this cave. And the dolphins would sit in that puddle and just stare at us.
The video is much longer than that. What I will tell you is everything that those dolphins said to him, that man understood. That man said it was children down there with him. Children that didn't speak English, but were human. He also said that he was in a cave filled with oxygen. And the craziest thing, he said he touched something on the wall that glowed. And when he took his hand off of it, his hand was glowing. There is a reason why they tell us to stay away from the dolphins. There is a reason why they do not want us communicating with dolphins. I don't know, but this Gerald the Dolphin story, I'm starting to believe more and more. Do your own research. Go down a rabbit hole. I'm out.
Yeah, man. This war is beyond our imagination.
Danish government accidentally and unknowingly helped create the worst adult movie of all time. It's called Animal Farm. I don't have to explain why. On the disturbing movie iceberg, it's mentioned twice. In 1969, the Danish government legalized all adult films, but they gave no restrictions, so every company was pumping out videos like Hollywood does today. A company called the Color Climax Corporation actually heard that there was a demand for this type of adult movie, so they made one. In 1981, a tourist smuggled it into Britain, and it spread like a plague. A lot of small shops started selling it under the counter if somebody had asked for it. The UK police started doing a bunch of raids trying to wipe the video out of existence, and they thought they did until FUBAR came out. It's on the very bottom of the iceberg, and it does contain scenes of Animal Farm, which means that somebody held onto the tape and then put it in this movie. The UK also came out with a documentary, and they brought up this film in the documentary. It is apparently the worst thing anyone could ever see. Also, I shouldn't have to say don't look this up, but honestly, if you want to see something like this, you deserve whatever happens.
This video damn near traumatized me in the way that it keeps me thinking about why did this happen. So this video starts off and it's this woman named Jasmine, and it seemed like this homeless guy was chasing her and her daughter up to her apartment, right?
Yeah.
And you think the video is just about this creepy dude who's following her around, right? Across the hall from her apartment, there's another apartment that, according to her, she said has been vacant for the past 3 or 4 years since she lived there. No one's been in there at all.
Yeah.
In the video, she's like yelling at the dude like to get away from her apartment, from her door or whatever. You see the door across the hall open randomly and then shut all on its own.
Really?
Yes. She notices when she goes back and watches the video, and she realizes no one lives in that apartment. So she gets one of the maintenance guys to come and open the door for her.
Yeah.
And dude, what she finds inside this room is so weird. She opens up the apartment door and the apartment is completely empty.
Yeah.
The only thing that's in there, in the middle of the apartment, is a fat ass pile of children's shoes.
What?
Yes, dude. She's looking back at the video and she notices there's a pair of boots in that pile that were her daughter's that went missing a couple weeks before.
Are you kidding?
They're like Elsa boots or something like that. That she remembered she bought her daughter and they went missing. She just assumed her daughter like lost them at school or something. So this woman goes and she buys a pair of like rain boots, like children rain boots. She sets them up as a decoy to see if anybody will follow them. In the video, you see one of her neighbors and she's looking in the direction of that abandoned apartment. While she's looking at the direction, the shoes on the floor randomly move on their own. She went to go ask her neighbor, like, why'd you step out of your apartment? What did you hear? What'd you see?
What'd she say?
She said she heard babies crying out of the apartment that's abandoned, where all the baby shoes were found. And till this day, this woman, Jasmine, and everybody that lives in that apartment
say that this was real.
Say that this is real, and they don't know why it happened.
Bro, I'm leaving the whole complex.
You have to.
Like,
you have to.
Is insane,
I'm not staying too.
All right, if you think that these forest fires that are happening in Northern Ontario right now are organic, just an act of God, then you are exactly where they want you to be. And I'm going to show you what's really going on right now. Now, first of all, as a Canadian that's been living in Ontario most of my life, this is not normal. What we've been seeing the past few years, far from normal. The first part of this agenda is they're trying to convince you that climate change is a real thing. There's a lot of other agendas that go into this, so pay attention. First, I'm going to break down how they are doing this, how they are causing these fires, and number two, why they are doing this. First of all, for many, many years since you've been born, they've been littering our skies with heavy metals. Things like barium, aluminum, strontium, graphene falling from our skies into our soil. This is not some conspiracy. Go out on your car, scrape up the dust that you see on your car in the morning and use a magnet, and you'll see that it's magnetic because heavy metals are falling from the sky. This has been patented. There's hundreds of patents on it. They've been blowing the whistle on this for many, many years. The government has come out and admitted they spray chemtrails on us. All you need to do is look up and see. What's happening is as these heavy metals have been falling from the sky for so many years, the ground absorbs these heavy metals. The roots of the trees absorb these heavy metals. The trees then become very flammable. How do they spark this? Well, it's through directed energy weapons. Have a listen to this.
that are green or something like that. Real lasers, one of the key advantages that they provide is that they are invisible. You actually can't see them. You just see this damage suddenly starting to blow something up. So if we take a look now at what the Athena did to a truck. So we're looking at a truck engine, and the Athena within seconds was able to beam right in there, heat the whole thing up, and burn through the engine of this vehicle. So we can imagine if you were in that vehicle, all of a sudden, this hole would start appearing in your engine.
To assess all these forest fires that were happening in the recent past in Maui and LA and all these places, and the cars melted into the ground, aluminum quite literally melting into cement. This is from directed energy weapons. Again, not a conspiracy, guys. They have these things mounted to like Boeing 747s that can hit fucking targets 60 miles away. It's a tweet from the Department of War. Yes, the Department of War has directed energy weapons. Yes, we are scaling them. No mistake, this is exactly what's happening. These psychopaths that, control this world, that control the money supply, that poison your air, food, and water, what they're doing is they're lighting up these rural areas because they're trying to push everyone into their 15-minute smart cities, a complete control grid run by AI and, smart cars or electric cars that you can't go out of the cities. It is complete and total control, and this is the agenda. And I do also want to say that no matter how evil these people are, love always wins. We will rise up. Fuck all this bullshit. Focus on the love and the peace. Peace and love.
They don't want nobody growing their own food or living off grit.
The craziest theory about celebrities is they get reincarnated and live multiple lives, and this is through the Illuminati. They say these A-list celebrities get their DNA saved and basically come back smarter, stronger, better, and more famous. Here are a few examples. Jennifer Lawrence used to be an Egyptian actress. Mark Zuckerberg was Philip IV. Ellen DeGeneres was an American philosopher. This is kind of like they look alike. Adrian Brody was John Locke. This guy came back as Justin Timberlake. This, I can't explain it. It's just, they're the same person. Jay-Z was a man from Harlem. The comparison is kind of there. This was Michael Jackson in a past life. This was Jimmy Fallon. They look identical, especially with his mustache now. And some people say Keanu Reeves is a vampire because he hasn't aged. Here's a chart dating from 1530 all the way to 2017. But just watch this interview with Jimmy Fallon. He doesn't really deny having a past life.
You've been on the earth since you've just been around. There's just different generations. I just wanted to show you just in case. We're all stardust, baby. I know. On the forehead. Look at that guy. That's a French actor, Paul Monet. Yeah, we have the same foreheadish eyebrow, I think. Yeah. I like his mustache. Campbell's references here. But that's the real. Oh. No, I kind of see a little bit of it. Got the eyes. I can kind of see it. Isn't that revolutionary? Get the beauty.
In the last clip, the audience is kind of like, whoa. I was also like, whoa.
Keanu is one of my favorite artists.
Oh, but that is the theory. I'm wondering if 23andMe or like Ancestry DNA keeps our DNA for this.
Have you ever heard of a rat king? If you haven't, I can guarantee it's not what you think it is. This is a good representation of it. I thought about using a real picture, but I'm not trying to get banned today. On very rare occasion, groups of 3 to 30 rats have gotten tangled together at the tails, forming what is called a rat king, where the only way out is death. Only about 60 rat kings have been seen in the last 500 years. And I could go into the mythology of it, how a rat king is supposed to represent the evilness and filth of royalty. But I know that what you really want to know is how this happens. No one has ever seen the development of this mess, but it's thought that this happens when several rats are confined to a small space, usually in the cold winter months. Since their tails have a grasping reflex, they can easily get tangled up. The longer they stay there, the more substances get involved. Blood, urine, etc. Making the knot so sticky, it's impossible to untangle. Then they're just permanently stuck. For a long time, it was thought these were man-made, taking dead rats and just tangling them together. Till just a few years ago, a living rat king was seen in Europe. Rats have quite the history. There's a lot more to say about them than you'd realize, which is why I just put out the history of rats that we know of on YouTube. Go check it out.
4 celebrities whose graves faced absolute brutal revenge. The last one is absolute madness. Number 4, Rick James. Thanks to a massive internet meme, fans and haters completely ruined his marble headstone. They constantly spray painted his iconic explicit catchphrase all over it. His family cleaned it endlessly, but the internet literally won. Number 3, Jim Morrison. Resting in Paris, his grave became a literal nightmare. Obsessive fans turned it into an illegal party zone, completely trashing the area and even stealing his marble bust. Now, he's locked behind a fence. Number 2, Liberace. In 2014, thieves assumed this flamboyant star was buried with millions in diamonds. They broke into his private Hollywood mausoleum and violently smashed the marble front with sledgehammers. They got 0 jewels but completely trashed a legend. Number 1, Jimmy Savile. When this UK TV star's unspeakable...
This one is a PDF.
crimes were exposed after his death, angry locals smashed his luxurious headstone to pieces. The outrage was so intense, officials dug him up in the dead of night, threw him in an unmarked grave. Which of these shocked you the most? Let me know below.
Prince Andrew is done staying quiet. As the long arm of the law closes in, he's singing like a bird to save his own skin. And the names spilling out are devastating. His own brother, King Charles, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Stephen Hawking, and a network of world leaders and billionaires who believed they were untouchable. The elite threw him under the bus, hoping the public would be satisfied with one disgraced royal as the scapegoat. One villain shamed, case closed. But Andrew had a decision to make. Swallow the blame in silence, or blow the entire elite paedophile ring wide open. According to the insiders breaking ranks tonight, Andrew isn't just talking, he's choosing to burn it all down. He says Charles has killed dozens of boys in occult rituals. And as for Stephen Hawking, the crimes he committed while slithering around in a pink bikini are not for the faint-hearted. Right now, the entire elite paedophile ring is in absolute chaos. News broke last weekend that former Prince Andrew is now under active police investigation for a string of vile sex crimes, involving torture, satanic rituals, and stomach-churning cruelty. While the rest of the world is in shock and clutching their pearls, our audience is leaning back and simply saying, "We told you so." And you ain't seen nothing yet.
The royal family has been rocked by reports of fresh allegations against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as the former prince is investigated by police.
And now it finally begins. They will eat each other if cornered.
This is a previously undocumented species of praying mantis that was observed in northern Thailand in the canopy of a tropical fig tree. The world-renowned zoologist Randy Arthropoda made the discovery and submitted it to
a mantis that wear a cloak.
An academic journal naming the insect Arthropoda's mantis. At the end of the footage, the mantis is seen flying off. This mantis species is believed to be extremely elusive and shy and has not been seen since this footage.
Man, that's a cool one right there.
And they all think that they come from somewhere else?
Yes.
How do they think they got here?
There's a man who owned a herd of cattle and was wintering them on the Oregon-California border up north of Crescent City. And every year he'd done this. So one year, they winter with the Native Americans there. He sees this Native American walking with a tray of food. The guy walk up into the mountains up to this cliff area. Guy comes back and he says, "Hey, what's that for?" He goes, "I can't talk to you about that." He owns all the cattle. He's working with the Native Americans. He goes to the chief. The chief goes, "We've got Harry Moon up there. This thing came and it comes every couple months. There's usually two of them that come together." He goes, "Well, what do you mean?" He says, "We see a moon come out of the sky. It's very bright. It comes down near the land. And these two jump out of the moon and they're friendly. They get along with us and they stay there and we feed them sometimes." So that was in like 1885 newspaper.
Here's what can happen to you if you decide to eat wild honey. These people ate just one spoonful too many. And what happened to them next is something they'll remember for the rest of their lives. Wild honey is also called mad honey, and it's produced in only one country, Nepal. Every day, dozens of locals climb up to 5,000 meters into the mountains to collect it, and the harvesting process is just as risky as the honey itself. They hang over cliffs with almost no safety gear, all while being stung by hundreds of wild bees. Ooh. But why do they take such risks? Because this honey is incredibly expensive, costing $6,000 for a small jar, and even that's enough. Just one spoonful can cause hallucinations, loss of control, and unconsciousness. Some tourists, unaware of this, ate an entire jar at once and then went completely insane or even fell into a coma for several days. One blogger decided to test mad honey on himself. What happened to him shocked everyone. Do you think the rare experience of tasting mad honey is worth the serious health risks it can cause? Or should something known to trigger hallucinations, loss of control, and even unconsciousness only be consumed under strict limits and supervision?
I'm going to pass.
And that's exactly how they got you to enjoy eating cockroaches. So back in the 1800s, lobster was considered poor people food. Why?
What?
Because there was a lot of them. I mean, they would just casually wash up on shore. Back then, farmers used to use them as fertilizer. But then something crazy happened. You see, the railroad industry started to take off. Trains became the newest and fastest way to travel. But the industry had a problem. They had to feed the passengers, and preferably as cheaply as possible. So yo, remember how I said lobster was casually washing up on shore? That meant it was pretty much free. And the train passengers that did not live close to the water had never seen them before. They had no idea it was poor people food. So the railway companies got to work and started to market it as a delicacy. And that is exactly how a sea roach turned into an exotic food. People think the worth of something is fixed. But the fact is, the worth of something is created by whoever controls the story. And that is exactly why the same thing is happening to you today, and you don't even know it.
Man, them roaches good as heck with garlic butter.
Police officers in the UK arrive at a woman's home following the most horrific tip-off. And you can see body cam footage of this. You can see them entering the home. You can see a woman stood in the kitchen in a red dressing gown, drinking a cup of tea as if nothing is going on whatsoever. And officers ask if they can see the bedroom of the person that they've had a tip about, to which the woman in the dressing gown says, "Why?
You able to show me bedroom?"
Yeah. Why? But police make their way to the bedroom anyway. They don't care that this woman is trying to stop them. And what they find is possibly one of the most horrific things that you could come across. Because when they walk inside this bedroom, they find a severely malnourished woman lying on a bed, even though it's not really even a bed. She has no body fat whatsoever. She is gaunt. She is pale. She looks incredibly unhealthy. She looks like she's on the brink of death. Her head is shaved. She's filthy. She has a very strong body odor. She's also naked, and her body is covered in bruises and cuts. And possibly one of the most shocking things of all is that this woman has no teeth. And again, you can see footage of the officers looking around this room. They find it in a filthy state. It looks worse than a prison cell. And the officers speak to the woman that they find in this room, asking her, like, "Are you okay? What is going on?" And the woman responds saying, "I don't want to be here. I don't feel safe. Amanda hits me all of the time. I don't like it. I haven't washed for years. She doesn't let me."
When was the last time you noticed that she did bathe herself?
Not a lot. No. And the officers were absolutely horrified. This was not what they were expecting when they responded to this call, because what they had come across was a woman who was a slave for 25 years.
Did you guys talk about what's happening in GTA 6?
Oh, how there's like real money being involved?
Yeah, and also the game will remember what you do.
What do you mean?
So like, say you rob a bank, right? That bank will be closed on the duration of your story, and people will know you, and people will react different to you now. So, oh, you're a robber. What the hell? Because you just robbed that bank. It'll do its own thing like real life. So I know that for sure once that comes out, we're in a simulation because we can't differentiate between a video game and life no more.
Because it reacts just like how regular people react. Like NPCs become just real people.
Yes, everything that you do from the beginning to the end will react how your player will react. So if you're an aggressive player, people will treat you like
See, the scariest part about this is because eventually there will be a game just like that, just like life.
Guys, this is gonna sound like a joke, but the state of Florida just opened up a public hunt for you to go catch invasive pythons, and whoever bags the most wins $10,000. So this is called the Florida Python Challenge, and it's a state-run competition the Wildlife Commission puts on every single year, and you do not need a license or any sort of experience. They're just picking up random people. You take a short course online, you sign up, and then you go hunt pythons in the Everglades, and there's $25,000 in total prizes, with $10,000 going to whoever catches the most. The reason why they're saying that they do this is because Burmese pythons have completely taken over the Everglades. People have bought them as pets, let them go, and now there are tens of thousands of them out there with nothing that keeps their numbers down. They've also said that these snakes actually wipe out every single mammal in that area, with raccoons, possums, and bobcats all down more than 90%. And these snakes are huge, by the way, because the biggest ones they pull out are close to 20 feet long, and a single female can lay around 100 eggs at a time. Last year, hunters were able to pull out 294 pythons out in just 10 days, and the winner was actually a woman. Would you go hunt a 20-foot python in a swamp for 10 grand?
Somebody called the Yoink guy. He does this for fun daily.
We dig, the more we find. Here we have an image of a diploma for the American Pacific Exposition and Oriental Fair for Portland, Oregon in 1905. So 1904, they have the St. Louis World's Fair. 1 year after, we get this one in Oregon. This diploma is very interesting. As we go down to the bottom, we have a photo, and we can clearly see in the background 2 airships, both looking different. They normally don't show this form of transportation in these photos. They normally blank out the sky. But as we look up all of these countries, we see the big ones, and then we see Caucasia. Have any of us heard of a country in the 1900s named Caucasia? I personally have never heard of Caucasia, which is similar to Tartaria. All of these countries that we were never told about. But this one wasn't hundreds of years ago. This was 1905. So they are now, in my opinion, lying and telling us that Caucasia, or Caucasus, is a region that has a bunch of countries in it, including Russia, which we all know have connections to Tartaria. But let's take a look at this list again from 1905. They are already listing Russia on this map with Turkey, France, Holland, Germany, Switzerland, Italy. All of these are countries. They are not regions. I'll say it again. These are countries. Why would they then throw a region in there randomly? That doesn't make any sense. I think we are finding, in my opinion, that there is more land that we aren't being told about that was here in the 1900s. And I think Caucasia is being hidden from us right now. Really quick, I want to just throw this in here, that there is another country that is clearly blurred out. I wonder if we weren't supposed to see that one. So we were given a photo with the airships in the background in the sky. So I went digging and found this photo from 1905, World's Fair in Oregon, showing more airships. And since I haven't really covered this topic yet on this channel, in my opinion, and a few others, this form of travel was all over the place. It wasn't just created in the 1800s, and the Hindenburg event was used as a scare tactic to make these airships look faulty, removing this free energy form of transportation technology out of our lives. Do you really think that they put a gas in these airships that would be so incredibly flammable and fly them over massive cities? Or does it make more sense that this Hindenburg event was a planned event to get rid of this free form of travel and wipe it from the history books? Here we have a photo of one of these airships sitting in between the 2 spires of the Old World building. You can see that they use these spires to electrically charge these airships. And this was common knowledge. And in the very next photo...
Why is this not national news? Why is this not on every news channel in America? So 300 piles of human remains was found in the Las Vegas desert. Not 300 bodies, 300 piles of human remains.
So have you heard what they just found in Las Vegas, Nevada? They just found over 300 piles of human remains out in the desert. Now this reminds me of that TV series. It could be either Breaking Bad or it could be the Ed Gein Monster series. I mean, there are some sick people in the world.
So piles of cremated remains found in the desert. Now our 8 News Now investigators are learning more about the investigation well underway to find out who did it as another funeral home steps up to give all those people a proper resting place. Our investigators breaking the news about that disturbing discovery in Searchlight about an hour south of the valley. That story made international headlines, and today only 8 News Now investigator David Charnes back in Searchlight as another funeral home took care of each and every one.
But how do basically over 300 people wind up missing? And they find piles of them in the desert. Supposedly now the funeral homes are out there recovering the remains, probably trying to figure out this giant mess of who all these people are. But by God, I hope it's not some kind of a wacko serial killer running loose. I'm assuming it's probably like a funeral home that was negligent.
Yep.
And rather than, preparing the bodies for funerals and burying them like they're supposed to, they probably dumped them in the desert. But if you haven't seen it, check this one out. It'll make your stomach turn.
No, I understand what they mean by what happened in Vegas stays in Vegas.
According to my sources, this vampire mummy was found underneath the Vatican Museum in Rome, Italy. And you can tell that it's male because its private parts have been mummified as well for all to see. But look, this is in fact a vampire who was stabbed through the heart. Now, one thing you guys have to remember is that the Vatican Archives is part of the Catholic Church, which has been around for at least 2,000 years. And they have miles and miles long hallways full of ancient human history. It says 53 miles. And that is all not to be seen by the public. So who knows how much secret information they have hidden there. Not many people talk about this. I wish they did more. But if you want to learn the truth about everything, you have to go to where all the information is stored. The government doesn't have all this. It's the churches that have this because they are the most powerful entities in the entire world because they have the biggest grip on people's minds and they've been around the longest. To the point where they were given so much money and wealth that they then created the dollar. They created all the monetary systems. And I know what you might be wondering. Where did this mummy vampire come from in the first place? Well, it is my expert opinion that these blood-sucking vampires are not from our realm. I think they come from a world beyond. It doesn't necessarily have to be based on this map, which probably is not accurate, but it probably comes from one of the other 12 worlds like there is in Norse mythology, with Earth being in the center of everything. So I think that these vampires, these bloodsuckers, the A-chrome drinkers, which I can't say the full word for, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about, I think they all invaded into our area and started to try and control everybody. And that's why, of course, out of every place in the entire world, the Vatican has a mummified vampire there. Of course they do, because they are the vampires who drink people's blood. And they have throughout the centuries, throughout all of human history. And they took us over, and now they have all the information on what actually happened. Guys, remember, the winners write the history books. They tell you what they want you to think.
Sihuaquat, I think. I don't know. I'm so sorry. Her name translates to Snake Woman.
Sick.
I know. She's cool. We like her. She was a powerful and revered mother goddess associated with childbirth, motherhood, fertility, and just the earth in general. And like many Aztec deities, she embodied two opposing forces at once. One, she brought life into the world, and two, she also guided souls through their death journey. Very Persephone coded.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
Women who died giving birth in, the Aztec culture were honored as fallen warriors, which I'm obsessed with. I love that very much.
As they should be.
Yeah, exactly. It was believed that Sihuaquat would watch over them as they pass and just kind of guide them through the journey of childbirth and caring for the child and helping the moms on the other side and, assuring them that things would be taken care of once they went.
This woman is one of the worst pedophiles in the United States right now, and let's talk about her case. So this is 25-year-old Victoria Cranmer from New Jersey. Victoria is a babysitter, and in May of this year, she recorded a very disturbing video on her phone. So according to court documents, Victoria was living with a friend. Her friend gifted her a cell phone. And then apparently at one point, Victoria was kicked out of the friend's home and she gave back the phone. But what Victoria's friend found on the phone was horrifying. According to court documents, Victoria's friend discovered a video that Victoria recorded herself on her own cell phone that showed her sitting on the toilet fully exposed. And in the video, the 13-year-old boy who she was babysitting was seen playing with her exposed genitals. Now, this wasn't a short video, and apparently it was so disturbing that Victoria's former roommate locked the phone to make sure she couldn't delete anything, and then went to the police with all this. But this is where things take an even darker and more disturbing turn. So, in doing their investigation, the police discovered that Victoria had previously babysat for another family. According to the mother of the young child that Victoria used to babysit, her son at one point throughout this babysitting developed an extreme fear of the bathtub. And according to officials, the boy's mother eventually found out that Victoria herself would bathe nude with her infant son. She wasn't giving the child baths, she was bathing with the child. And how old was this child in question? Well, according to his mother, the child was in diapers. So we're talking a 13-year-old and an extremely young toddler/baby. More videos were eventually discovered on Victoria's phone after investigators took a look at it that showed her having sexual contact with children. And so now she has been arrested, charged with assault, the production of CSAM, the possession of CSAM, and a slew of other things. Now, this is a perfect example of something I've talked about time and time again, where
A pedophile doesn't necessarily have a certain look. When you imagine a pedophile in your mind, you probably think about a middle-aged, older man, just kind of a creepy-looking guy. But these criminals really do come in all shapes and sizes and ages too, and you can really never be too vigilant with the protection of your children, because even those you think you can trust the most can sometimes turn to the dark side when you aren't looking. I'm going to keep you guys up to date on this situation. This is just a horrific story, and I'm sure that once more is learned about what really was happening here, it's going to get even worse.
This is why there is only one disease. Watch this.
And guess what I found? That there's only one disease. Not two, not three, one. When I opened my big black mouth and told the judge that, oh my God. What did you say? I said, Your Honor, there's only one disease. The judge said, what is it? I said, you already know. She said, try me. I said, Your Honor, when someone has sinusitis, what is obstructing the nasal passage? She said, mucus. And when another has bronchitis, what is obstructing the bronchial tubes? She said, mucus. And when another has pneumonia, what's covering the cells of the lungs? She said, mucus. She said, and what about AIDS? I said, Your Honor, have you been to an AIDS ward? She said, yes. I said, what is it that the AIDS spits up every 5 minutes? She said, mucus. Where is the mucus? It's in the skin, it's in the blood, and the lymphatic system that makes up the immunological system. That is where you find the mucus.
I could not agree more with this. All these different diseases is a million different names given for the same conditions. It is an immune response to acids, to acid waste. It is the backing up of the lymphatic system, and that is as simple as it is. But what do we do when that lymph is not moving, when it is stagnant, when it is building up, when it is blocking things, and when it is manifesting different diseases all over the body? The first thing that I would do in this situation is to go towards electric foods, foods that are higher in electrons, foods that are more alkaline than they are acidic. These would be fruits, herbs, and some salads. I would go towards the grapes, melons, berries first. Definitely the grapes. The grapes are really good at hydrating cells, and they are very good for detoxification. If you think this is important, comment reset down below, and I'll see you inside our 30-day detox.
One of the highest paid hosts in Japan is actually a celebrity of sorts. His name is Roland. He's made a brand for himself being the most sought after host. It's said that he makes almost $500,000 per month. In 2018, he threw a birthday party at his host club for his birthday. He made $400,000 that night. People showed up to celebrate him, to buy him drinks, to just fawn over him. And he's a character. He said there are only two types of men, me and the rest. He said, I often stare into a girl's eyes and say, your face is so beautiful, but I'm really looking at my own reflection in the girl's eyes.
Oh, shit.
And you would think, like, when I'm saying it, it sounds crazy. He comes off cocky and annoying. He sounds like the epitome of every guy that girls hate, right? But if you watch the interviews where he says it, his communication, his body language is so playful. It feels like he's not taking it seriously. And it almost makes you feel more comfortable around him. He did a house tour with a YouTuber, and every surface of his bedroom is a mirror. He said so that when he has girls over, he can see every angle. He was also asked in an interview how many women he slept with, and he very smoothly, without even skipping a beat, says, do you drink coffee? The interviewer is like, yes. Do you remember how many cups of coffee you've had?
Wow.
The Rockefeller dynasty, one of the richest families in America, and they are oil tycoons. They made their fortune in the petroleum industry in the late 19th century and early 20th century. And the two brothers that made most of this money was John D. Rockefeller and William A. Rockefeller. But for me, John D. Rockefeller is the patriarch. This is him when he was younger. And this is him when he was a young man. This is his wife, and in the middle is his heir. The women in the Rockefeller family only got an allowance. They never held any power. The power always remained to the male heirs. Their family originates in Germany, which I find fascinating. There are so many elite families that originate in Germany. They originated in Rhineland, Germany. It was a small village. Their family moved to America in the 18th century. Now, although their origins are Germanic, a lot of them have ancestry that are Scottish and Irish. Some of them were Protestant. Others were Baptist. And some were even Episcopalians. Something very interesting is that the combined wealth of the families, or the money that each one has and earns, it's all private, even the individual wealth of each member. Very private, very top secret. The records of family archives are closed to researchers. There is no way of knowing how much wealth each one of them has or that they have accumulated in the past. You just can't find out. It's none of your business. Despite the strong-willed wives, none of them controlled anything. The power always stood in the male hands. Even Abby Aldrich Rockefeller, which was the matriarch, the wife of John D. Rockefeller, she held no power, was only given an allowance, and that was it. Most of the money they have is all locked up in a family trust from 1934. Then they created another trust in 1952, both administered by Chase Bank. But the money they made was because they are oil tycoons. John D. Rockefeller, then his heir, John D. Rockefeller Jr., and then we have Nelson Rockefeller. Then we have the Rockefeller Center, that was a complex of 19 buildings in Manhattan, spreading across 33 acres. Now, the Rockefeller family does not own it anymore, but he's chairman, and so he controls all of that. Now, are the Rockefellers and Rothschilds friends? They're both huge dynasties, elite families, and they both originate in Germany. Interesting, right? A lot of these dynasties originate in Germany. This is David Rockefeller with Jacob Rothschild. In 2012, two of the world's most storied financial families fuse a historic business deal together. Newfound part.
John D. was a snake oil salesman. Pretty suspicious.
The animal entering the water is an anaconda that has been affectionately named Tiny Tim by the locals. This footage was recorded along the Amazon River in Brazil. Tiny Tim is estimated to measure in excess of 30 feet in length. The snake's size was officially certified by Francisco Lima, the cacique of the local indigenous community. The local population has coexisted with the anaconda for years without incident. Tiny Tim's current location is unknown.
I mean, Tiny Tim, like little boy?
Wait. Hold up. You mean to tell me that nobody ever knew about Glenn Rogers, the convicted serial killer, and this person was Nicole Simpson's handyman? What? There's even a documentary back in 2012 that he even said he committed the crime of killing Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman. Nobody knew this. Why am I just now finding out about this? Isn't it funny that this is just now coming about and the media, I guess, suppressed it after OJ died? That's very suspicious. They said from the span of 93 to 95, he committed over 60 murders. 60! He was known as the cross-country killer or the Casanova killer, and he was known for killing women. So that explains it all. It's like they intentionally did this because he was never brought up as a witness. He was never brought up as a suspect. Nothing. Goes to show you that nothing is what it seems. So just listening to the media, you can't even believe anything you hear nowadays.
One of many old Maine buildings across the nation, Sam Houston, Huntsville, Texas. And listen, I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. There is nothing normal about these normal schools in early America. Okay, well, that's pretty normal within these narratives that it burned, but I'd be surprised if it didn't at this point. Now, the raw numbers are what always brings this together. Okay, the buildings are great, but listen to this. Only 4% of students in 1900 were in high school. Only 1% were in college. Yet all the way back into 1859, in the middle of nowhere, Normal, Illinois decides to have a normal school. And the name of the town, yes, is called Normal because of this. Of course they named it that. Look at this. It stuck out probably pretty bad. This was supposedly built between 1860 and 1861. 1 year built right at the beginning of the Civil War for $200,000. The first graduating class was 10 students. Now, these schools are very specific. Normal schools are just for teacher training. So in 1861, out in the middle of a cornfield, how many teachers do you need? And what students are in school? And what teacher on that campus decades later is pumped that their gymnasium is
The what?
Is a castle. And these castles keep popping up in Illinois at their normal schools. Northern Illinois State Normal School in DeKalb, Illinois. Okay, there was about 5,000 people in this town, and in the whole county, there was about 30,000 people. And then there was why does this have to be the first build? Like the first building at this school? Like this is the one. No, we're going to start with the castle, guys. We're going to start with the castle. It looks like a Disney movie. It looks like it should be Lord Farquaad's, in Shrek, the little guy. It looks like it should be his castle. When this normal school was authorized in 1895, there was another normal school the same year being authorized. And it was a castle too. It was a castle too. And this was supposed to elevate the students intellectually and spiritually. But I didn't think medieval doesn't do that for me. I guess it might have for Eastern Illinois website. To some, a medieval castle may seem out of place at the edge of an Illinois prairie. And the history on this castle is like so many structures that they really just can't explain. They don't even know how to explain it. They don't even know where to start. So they just make the narrative confusing. This is all of it condensed. The original plans are missing. Multiple architects revised the design. Contractors bid on the wrong drawings, and the plans didn't fit the site. The foundations, walls, battlements, and towers were changed after the work began. The cornerstone was laid before the final design was settled. The first contractor failed, and the university still cannot say exactly who designed the finished castle. Love y'all, and have a good day.
So Dolly Parton posted this thank you video, and the more I watch it, the weirder it gets. But here's a quick backstory before you even watch it. Taylor and Travis dropped $26 million on charity before their wedding, and $2 million of it went to Dolly's Imagination Library. So she then posts this video to say thanks. Fine, except she says this.
Hey, when you have your firstborn, can I have it? Because that is going to be one special baby.
Strange thing to say on camera. But that's not even the part that people locked onto. Because right when she says her firstborn, Han does this.
Hey, when you have your first...
And while we're here, doesn't she look unusually young for someone that's been around since the 60s? People in the comments aren't just talking about the hand sign. Some are saying this isn't even Dolly, that she's been replaced. But it's just strange that she would do something like this. Yeah. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe she ages well. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below.
It's a big club, and you and I, and in it...
The ocean is warming up so fast right now that there is a flesh-eating bacteria that used to only live down in Florida, but it's now officially spreading up the coast. So this scientist at Stony Brook just confirmed that this flesh-eating bacteria is in the water near Long Island and a couple of the ponds near the Hamptons. They're saying that it has now shown up in multiple different spots, and this bacteria usually lives in the warm water of the Gulf, so it's basically never been this far up north before. They've reported that it's been creeping up the Atlantic coast about 30 miles every single year as the ocean keeps warming, but it's already hit Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Cape Cod. Long Island is just the newest spot on the list. You don't get it from drinking the water, it gets in through a cut or a fresh tattoo while you're in warm water, or from eating raw shellfish like oysters. And this bacteria is really serious because only about 1 in 5 people who get infected actually make it. The Southampton town trustees put out an advisory over this, but they haven't closed any of the beaches. Is going outside safe at all at this point?
They found 10,000 human bone fragments on Herb Baumeister's 18-acre estate in one of the most prolific unsolved serial killer cases that you've never heard of. The Fox Hollow murders premiered last year on Hulu, and it blew my mind. Herb Baumeister was the prime suspect, but he flew to Ontario and unalived himself, so they interviewed all these other people, and it raised so many questions. Did Herb act alone? How did he get all the bodies to the spot on the estate? Then they interviewed Mark Goodyear, a witness and a survivor, a dude that I thought was for sure guilty, but I don't know. Well, now you can go back to Fox Hollow because they just dropped Return to Fox Hollow, New Victims, Darker Secrets. And listen, it answers some things, but since the show premiered last year, over 500 people have submitted new evidence and new leads, and this 1-hour episode covers all of that. I need more answers. I need to know who did this in this case and who helped Herb Baumeister. But you can go think and decide for yourself, because Return to Fox Hollow New Victims Darker Secrets is streaming on Hulu right now. And I'm telling you, buckle up. This is going to blow your mind.
The Backrooms tells a much darker story than people realize. Take a look at this. This isn't just a creepy maze. It follows a pattern of occult initiation. First, they enter through a hidden threshold. Not a normal door, but a secret portal into a different realm. And inside, some have pointed out what looks like the blazing star of Freemasonry. A symbol often tied to illumination, hidden knowledge, or enlightenment. A promise that man can ascend, that he can be his own god. But here's the bad news. They fall for the trap. They descend underground, which in occult symbolism represents death, burial, and rebirth. Kill the ego and descend into something greater. But let's not forget that in ancient mythology, the labyrinth always has a monster. And this is where it gets disturbing. By the end, the people inside don't become enlightened. They become distorted. Multiple eyes, twisted faces, low fidelity copies of the human image. And that is the deeper warning. The occult promises ascension through hidden knowledge. But the Bible shows us that's where temptation starts. You will be like God. That was the serpent's lie in Genesis. When man tries to transcend without God, he doesn't become divine. He becomes deformed. But the good news is that Jesus gives us the true way out. He says, I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved. So the answer to eternal life was never a hidden portal. It's surrendering our life to the one true waymaker, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Groundbreaking scientific research has found an 11-dimensional universe within our brains. I went ahead and dug into this research because I thought we lived in a 4-dimensional space-time. We have 1, 2, 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. And if our brains are in the 4D space-time, then how can there be 11 dimensions within the brain? So if we take any 2 points and connect them, we get a line. But we can also describe this as a 1-dimensional object. If we add a 3rd point and connect all the lines, we get a 2-dimensional object, or a triangle. Now we can keep doing this. We can have 2D objects, 3D objects, 4D, 5, 6, 7, all the way up until however many numbers you want. So we're not talking about 11 dimensions of space-time. We're talking about 11 dimensions of connectivity. Now what this paper was trying to say is that within our brains, the neurons are connected at 11 points, which is one of the reasons why our brains are so complex and why we're one of the smartest creatures on the planet. And I think the thing that bothers me is whoever made this post knew exactly what they were doing, because this isn't exactly wrong, but it's definitely clickbait and misleading. And I hate that the scientific world has been turned into a spectacle, because all it does is encourage people to like make it cool somehow. And we get things like this, which lead to misinformation. That's cool. That's why I'm here. Go ahead and follow me.
Is this why people see shapes when tripping? Alright folks, thank you for staying till the end. I hope you like my lineup. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that bell notification so you won't miss my next video. Have an awesome day and always. God bless.